Peace everyone, Unmask Art here, and welcome to Inktober, day 1. This is an exciting time of the year. I did this last year. I live streamed every one of the Inktober prompts, and I decided to do it again this year. Last year I streamed a little over 55 hours throughout the entire month, so thank you all for coming by, tuning in, and watching. I'll share some inking tips with you. All of my supplies are in the video description, so if you want to know what I'm working on and working with, you can check the description. Also, I want to mention that I have a Facebook family group, and if you want to join that, I have the link for that in the description as well. And what I'll be doing each day for Inktober is sharing all of your guys' creations. So I have a thread posted in the Facebook group right now. So if you want to share your prompt drawing for day 1, you can do that. You'll have until tomorrow to do that once I collect all the drawings and then set up for tomorrow's live stream. And then I'll share them at the beginning and get started on my prompt. So today's prompt is poisonous. And very similar to, I think, day 3 or day 4 of last year, which was poison. So this year I'm going to do something different than what I did last year for the almost identical prompt. And you might be able to see my sketch slightly on my page. Now I want to talk about how I plan my Inktober pieces. It helps me stay productive. It helps me get them accomplished each day because I have a lot to do, planning all the live stream and everything, and then on top of that doing a drawing. So I'll give you some quick tips to get your prompts done. The first thing that I do is, I look at the prompt. Today, like I said, is poisonous. So I thought of some ideas for poisonous. I thought of like poison flowers, poison other plants, poisonous animals, and I finally settled on a snake. I really like snakes. I've always been a fan of snakes. I've always wanted a snake as a pet. So I think poisonous snake, it felt appropriate for today's prompt. So that's what I decided to go with. And once I had the idea that I was going to do a snake, I worked on the composition. And usually I do this in Photoshop, and I just sketch some things to figure out how I want it to look. And then what I do is I sketch it on paper. This is what the sketch looks like. And I sketch this on really cheap computer printer paper. And the reason I do that is it's cheap paper. I don't care about this paper. You can buy, 500 sheets for like $1 or something. And I do all of my sketching for pretty much anything on this cheap paper. And the reason I do that is because once I have the composition laid out, once I have the sketch kind of worked out to its details, then what I do is I flip it over. And you can see here is I use a graphite pencil to just rub onto the back. That way it is completely covered. And then after that, I take my sketch and I lay it on the paper that I'm going to be using. And the paper I'm using, like I said, it's in the video description, but it is the Stillman and Byrne Zeta Series sketchbook, and this is multimedia paper, very thick, and it works well with ink, markers, watercolors, and acrylic inks. So once I have that graphite laid on the back there, what I do is called back tracing, and I just set my paper there. I tape it down around the edges to keep it still, and then I just trace my sketch, and it leaves a really nice ghost outline that is super easy to erase and to ink over on my nice clean paper that I want the final project on. So I wanted to start off day 1 by sharing that idea and that technique that I use to get a really clean inked picture. And I originally, when I was coming up with this idea, I thought that I was going to color it. I have some acrylic inks over here that I will be using throughout this month, but today I decided I'm just going to do just black and white ink. I'm going to be using my ink pens. I'm using the Staedtler pigment liner pens, and I have several different sizes here that I'm going to be using throughout this picture here, and I'll explain why I choose different sizes so that you guys get an idea of my approach for inking to help you along with your own ideas. But yeah, that's about it. It looks like we got plenty of people in the chat. Let me just say hello to a few people. Pablo Atesuto, I think I pronounced that correctly. Sophia Momeni, Shiny, PUBG Gamer, Sanvi, Sneaks, let's see, hello Bonnie and Ian, Ahmed, Ian I already said hello to, Wendy, good to see you, Barbara, did I miss anybody? Erica, thank you all so much for coming by and hanging out. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask and I will be happy to answer. The first pen that I'm using is a 0.1, and when I do my initial inking, I like to start with kind of a thinner line because that gives me a lot of flexibility later on when adding depth and thickness to the lines to make the inking look better. So I'm just going to go over my pencil sketch here with this pen liner. The reason that I recommend doing the preliminary sketch like I do is that ink is not a very forgiving medium. You know, if you make a mistake with ink, there's almost no chance of being able to fix it. So if you do a preliminary sketch first, you're much more likely to avoid the mistakes that are going to cost you your final drawing. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than spending hours on a drawing and then messing it up with the ink. So make sure you just take your time and enjoy it. Did I see Anna's piece today? Yes, I did. She sent it to me over on Facebook. It's very, very nice. I'll be sharing everyone's Inktober pieces tomorrow for the second stream. I'm gonna have to move my sketchbook around a little bit here so that I can get my lines nice and clean. So yes, I just want to reiterate, you can join the Unmasked Art family on Facebook, and I have a thread there for you to post your Inktober pieces, and I will collect those tomorrow and share them with everyone. You guys will have to let me know what your ideas for today's prompt was. I decided to go with a snake, and I've already seen a few drawings already, and snakes seem to be a popular choice. Last year, I tried to be as original as I could with my prompts and tried to find something a little less obvious based on the word prompt, because I know it can be hard sometimes when for instance, I think one of the prompts this month is whale, and that can be a pretty obvious prompt to draw. So I try to think of kind of obscure things within the word that I could use to interpret into a drawing, just to, strengthen my creative process, my thinking a little bit. Try to keep myself outside the box a bit with the ideas. A lot of people have their strategy for Inktober and even their own meaning, for what Inktober should be and what it should be about and how it should be done. But for me, it boils down to just having fun and being creative and kind of growing as an artist, pushing yourself to be consistent, For those of you that might be new to my channel, might be new to the live streams that I do, I am a professional artist. I do YouTube professionally. I don't have any other job. This is what I do. And when you aspire to be a professional artist, perhaps one of the most important qualities, aside from actually being a good artist, is to be consistent. You kind of have to force yourself sometimes. I don't really like using the word force because it just feels a little bit negative when it comes when I hear it. But it's very important to be consistent in creating when you are a professional artist, and Inktober is just one of those really good challenges that help you develop that self-discipline of consistency. And it's also very fun. When I was younger, I mostly worked in ink. Pen and ink is something that I really always enjoyed working with. One of my favorite mediums. Like I said, it is very unforgiving, meaning you can't really afford to make many mistakes and have the ability to correct them as well. But I feel like all the time that I spent practicing with my inking has made me a stronger artist overall, simply because you have to fine-tune those small muscles in your hand to develop the control necessary to be a really consistent, strong artist. So I think I developed those muscles quite well in high school with all of the inking that I did. Okay, let's see here. I am going to go ahead and grab a thicker pen. I'm going to grab, let's see here, 0.5 I think. So I'm going to grab the 0.5 millimeter pen. This one is a bit wider than the previous pen, and what I'm going to be doing with this pen is outlining my snake here and our little family pet, which is Nugget, by the way. For those of you that are new, you might not know Nugget, but Nugget was he became part of the family last year in Inktober. Kind of a fun character that came out of nowhere and slithered his way into everyone's hearts, and he's been around for a whole year. He's a year old now, so happy birthday to Nugget. Let's see, let me check in with the chat here. You did a death cap mushroom. That is very cool. I was actually also thinking about incorporating mushrooms. The other idea, and I don't know, maybe it would have been better, but I wanted to develop a new character in Nugget's world, and that is why I went towards a snake. But the other idea that I had for today's prompt, if you don't know this, slugs are deathly allergic to salt. If you pour salt on a slug, poor slugs, it burns them. So salt, even though we love it on our food, is very poisonous and dangerous to slugs and snails. And what I was going to do is I was going to draw Nugget next to a salt shaker. That was going to be my poisonous idea for today. But I really wanted to develop a new character in Nugget's world, so I decided to bring in his best friend. His best friend is a snake. I'm not sure. I think his best friend is a banana snake. Yeah, I'm gonna say he's a banana snake, and I'll let you guys guess what name I gave him. So Nugget's best friend, the banana snake. You can guess what name I gave him, because as soon as I thought of it, I was like, wow, that is so perfect. That is the best name that I could give Nugget's best friend, and I'll tell you at the end of the stream. So stick around for that and you'll find out Nugget's best friend's name. So I'm using a thicker pen here on the snake and on Nugget because they are the centerpiece of my drawing here. And by adding more weight to the lines that are their bodies in the scene will help draw more attention to them as opposed to the surrounding details. So I'm going to be outlining the snake. I have to make sure I don't accidentally let his name slip. But for now I have to just refer to him as the snake, because we all know Nugget. Is it Banana Bob? That's a good name, but it's not Banana Bob. What if we don't have Facebook? That is unfortunate if you do not have Facebook, because I'm expecting a lot of submissions for the Inktober pieces, and if I have to collect the artwork from multiple sources, I don't want to miss any. It would make me feel really bad, so I am limiting to just Facebook. You have to submit it on the thread on Facebook. I will make a new thread for each day, and so just try your best to submit it only to that location. Yes, last year I think I had it that people were messaging it to me on Facebook, but that actually became rather troublesome and it was hard to keep track of. So the thread on the Unmasked Art family Facebook page will be the only way to submit your work. It just makes it a lot easier for me because I have a lot to keep track of, scheduling out the streams and preparing my inking projects here. So I apologize if it's difficult for you to submit it on Facebook, or if you don't have Facebook. You can certainly always tag me over on Instagram. Now I won't collect those pictures, but I'd still love to see your work, whether you email it to me or not, or tag me on Twitter or Instagram. I'd still love to see the work. It's just that when it comes to collecting everybody's pieces, I want to make sure they're in one location. But enough about that. The other thing that I will show you today is actually something that I went over, kind of a little tutorial within today's drawing. It's something that I actually taught last year as well, and it comes down to drawing scales, in this case on a snake. I'll talk about some pattern recognition and some little tricks to help you simplify the process of drawing things like a snake. Last year I did a water dragon, or a leviathan, and I forget what the prompt was. I can't remember what the prompt was that I drew the leviathan, but I talked about the strategy for drawing scales, like the dragon scales, and in this case I'll kind of reiterate what I did last year and show you how to do the scales on a snake. And I'm coming over here to Nugget now, and I'm also adding the line thickness around him to make him also stand out. Oh, hello Anna and Lily. And who else? Oh, and Chrissy as well. Welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much. Donna as well, Nanette. So good to see everybody. Can't believe it's been a whole year. It's nice to have Inktober again. It was really hard last year. I can't imagine that this year is going to be any easier than last year. So just gotta stay consistent. That's going to be the goal for this year. But I really enjoy hanging out on the live streams and chatting and drawing together. Is there anybody new to my channel and the live chat right now? If so, let me know. I'd love to welcome you to the family. One of the other drawing tips that I can mention when it comes to working with ink is that you'll find your hand is much more steady if you're always pulling the pen towards you as opposed to drawing lines in this direction. Instead of drawing lines like this, you'll find that you have a bit more control and consistency in your lines if you pull them towards you. If you pull them towards you like that, they'll be smoother and you'll be able to more consistently get that curve, those smooth lines with your pens. That's why you see me flipping my paper all around in circles. That way I can get these smooth curves on the snake more easily by pulling the pen towards me. There we go. Alright, I'm going to switch back to my point 1 to do some detailing. First thing I need to do is finish up the eyes here on Nugget. There we go. No eyelids popping from the bottom. Put in his eyeballs there. And of course his infamous grin. Nugget's always smiling. And then let's put his I don't know what they're called. His little feet. Slug feet. What are slug's feet? I think we had this conversation last year when we were talking about Nugget and the anatomy of slugs. Flippers? They're kind of like flippers. His wings? I don't know what they are. But yeah, his little feet. Gotta draw those in. Alright. Let's put in this other branch over here. Hope everybody had a great weekend, by the way. This is always a great way to start off the week. A little bit of drawing, hanging out with the family. So I hope you guys had a good weekend. Mine was, I was either playing Magic: The Gathering or I was prepping for Inktober. Yes, Nugget is indeed a real celebrity. Oh, you caught your puppy chewing on your .5? Oh, what a bad puppy. Gotta make sure your pens are put away when you're done so the puppies can't get to them. Alright, I'm not even sure which direction to turn my notebook to start drawing in these flowers here. These are cherry blossom flowers, by the way. Got my snake and little nugget up in a cherry blossom tree, one of my favorite trees. I went to, most of you probably know this, but I graduated, excuse me, I graduated from the University of Washington, and they have this quad area that is always really nice to hang out in the summers and the early springs, because the cherry blossom trees are blooming. It's basically a famous courtyard that they have, and it's just, the whole perimeter is nothing but cherry blossom trees, and it's so pretty in the spring when the cherry blossoms are in bloom. It brings people from all around to come and see them. It was always so pleasant, peaceful to walk through. Peaceful most of the time, when there wasn't a bunch of people running about. How do you even draw a flower? Well, you don't have to guess. You don't have to guess what a flower looks like. There's 1.5 million pictures on Google Images and the internet in general. A lot of people ask me, how do you draw things from memory? And the truth is, Google Images has a much better memory than you do, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with using reference photos. Cherry blossom trees are not regular cherry trees. No. Not a dumb question. I mean, it does have cherry in the name, but they are not actually cherry trees. They're just flowers. Oh, hello, Chris. I am doing well. Thank you for asking. Good morning, Tatiana. Good to see you. Yuki Dog Zombie. Good to see you too. Angel Merriweather. Thank you so much. Glad you like it. And Kelly. It's been a while since I've seen you, Kelly. Good to see you in the live chat as well. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody's questions. If you do have a question, I am always happy to take on questions, so don't hesitate to ask. And to help me see it better, you can tag me in the live chat to make sure that I see it. And I'll try not to get too caught up in my drawing here and miss it. Sometimes that happens. After 25 years, maybe 24 years of drawing, I still have a ton of fun doing it. So it's easy for me to lose track and forget that I'm live streaming. There's people watching. I should respond to their questions. Need to add a few little details on this flower over here. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I was intending to color today's project, but I decided that I'm just going to leave it cleanly inked, and what I will do is I'll take a really nice picture of it and I will upload it to the Unmasked family page. So if you guys want to download my line art from the Unmasked Art family page and color it, you are more than welcome to do that. Perfectly fine for you to take it and do whatever you want with it. Besides selling it, you can't do that, but you can color it as much as you want. I did that several times last year with some of my projects that I inked. Just kind of uploaded it and gave you guys the line art to do with whatever you want. So that's what I decided to do with today's, since I'm not going to be coloring it. Oh, thank you, Anna. Glad you like it. What is the purpose of using different size pens? That is an excellent question. So I briefly went over it, but hopefully you can see in the picture already. You can see that with the flowers and the tree branches, I'm using a thinner pen. I'm using a 0.1 millimeter pen, and the lines are quite delicate and thin. Whereas with the snake and nugget here, I outlined them in a thicker pen, the 0.5 millimeter. And what that does is it makes them stand out more. When you're inking and you're only inking, you're not using any color or anything like that, no shading, no pencils, graphite, or anything in the image, you're just using your lines. You have to choose your lines carefully in order to make the image be composed in a way that you still draw your viewer's attention to the specific part that you want them to look at. For instance, if I wanted my viewer to focus on the flowers over here rather than the snake and the snail, or the snake and the slug, I would thicken the lines on the flowers instead to draw your attention to them. Obviously, I'd have to shift it over and compose the flowers more into the center, but since I've added that heavier weight to my lines on the focal point of my image here, it helps draw the viewer's eye in better to this part of the drawing as opposed to the flowers up here. So that is the reason I use multiple line weights in my drawing here. So yes, again, great question. It's a very important compositional understanding when it comes to working with ink as a medium. Oh, hello, Miriam. You are very generous. You keep us to the fire that way, so I enjoy it. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm gonna turn this here. I have my original sketch. I lost a few of my lines, so good thing I have my original sketch here to make sure that I'm not missing anything. This is just one more benefit to planning your work. If you're familiar with any of my tutorials, then you know that I stress planning all the time, because I have the saying, there is no such thing as bad artwork, only bad planning. Every single student that I have, when they learn that lesson and they discover how much better artists they are after they take the time to plan their artwork out, they always have the same epiphany, and they often have the same responses from their friends and family when they show off their new artwork. I spent most of my morning, in fact, planning this piece. Of course, I was thinking about this project all weekend in order to finally come to a decision on what I wanted to draw for today's prompt. And once I settled in on this idea here, it actually was rather easy for me to execute. because, sometimes just thinking about the project is planning enough where you can then just develop the idea off of a few sketches, which is what I did. Just did a few little sketches in Photoshop. I do it in Photoshop because Command Z is super helpful, and also it saves me paper because paper is expensive both for my bank account and for the environment. So I try to conserve as much paper as possible by doing my planning and sketching in Photoshop. Just makes it easier on me. Just scrolling through and making sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Do I cross-hatch the shadows while inking if I plan to color an image later on? It just depends. See, cross-hatching is a specific technique. I don't generally use cross-hatching in my inked drawings, but sometimes, and in the past I have. It creates a particular style in your inking. But if I plan on coloring it, I almost never consider cross-hatching, because if I'm coloring it, then I'm going to be using the color itself to create the shadows, not the ink. I will do more in-depth projects through this month, I can assure you. If you go through last year's Inktober streams, or just the sketchbook tour that I did after Inktober of last year, if you aren't familiar with what I did last year, I did a lot of very different projects each day. There was like 5 or 6 manga pages that I created with a little nugget here going on adventures. There was just using a brush with ink and water. There was some colored ones that I did with markers, and you can expect, it's safe to assume that I will be doing similar things this year. I of course will be using the acrylic inks and brushes to color some of my projects. It all depends on how I feel for the project. Some projects I feel just they look nice, just cleanly black and white ink, because I am a fan of that look, and I really enjoy creating pieces like that. So there will be a variety of techniques that I used throughout the month, and I will of course share any information that I can with about those techniques that I incorporate in my work throughout the month. So I'm never too shy to share my thought process and techniques, because I strive on making my channel all about inspiring and learning and teaching, and I love to teach and I love to share my ideas and my techniques, because I don't covet my techniques or secrets to be the only person to create the kind of artwork that I do. I would rather share it all with the world and just see more beautiful artwork than I would be able to create. So I have no secrets on my channel. Somewhat unrelated to art, but I just noticed the background music. Where is it from? So I have an MCN that I'm a part of, my channel is a part of, and they provide me with a free subscription to, oh goodness, what is it called? Epidemic Sound. And it's just a music library. There you go. Wendy in the chat just answered the question. Yes, so Epidemic Sound is where I get all the music, and I just browse I just browse the music and find something kind of upbeat, happy, something that fits my personality here on YouTube, and not too upbeat, but subtly relaxing. I think that best describes me. So yeah, I don't know what song it is. I can find you the specific song if you want. It's called, this is awkward. It's called Not in Love with Him, the instrumental version. And it's by Epidemic Sound. I don't have any other information there. Yes. How's the surface of the paper? Does it feel nice? Absolutely. So one of the biggest changes from this year to last year with Inktober is that I did not go cheap with my sketchbook. I was very, very proud of a lot of the projects that I did last year for Inktober. Some of the ideas that I came up with were just like truly inspiring even to myself, and some of the ideas that came to me I was so proud of. And I maintained working in the same exact sketchbook for every single project, and it was a little bit disappointing at the end when I was holding a sketchbook of some of my best art that I've created, and the sketchbook it's kind of cheap. I kind of cheaped out a little bit last year on the Inktober, and so what I did is afterwards I scoured for what I thought would be the best sketchbook, and I bought one of these sketchbooks early or late last year, and I tested it out with some inks, with some markers, with some watercolor, with pens, and it blew my mind. It was so amazing. The paper is super smooth. And that's really, really important if you want to work with markers and ink, because markers, they don't blend well with paper that is very absorptive. So you want the slick, smooth paper for markers. You also want that for ink, because the ink lines will not feather. Yeah, there's nothing worse than feathering ink. It drives me nuts. That is where when you draw a line with the pen, the ink starts to kind of like creep out in the teeny tiny microscopic cracks of the paper, kind of like a really dense sponge, and it's not sharp and clean. So when you get feathering, it's when the ink starts to like spitter out a little bit around the edges of your lines, and nothing drives me crazier than that right there, with my inked drawings. So when I got this sketchbook, I knew it was what I was going to be using for this year's Inktober. I bought a new, fresh one. The downside, okay, there's a downside. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to how many pages were in this sketchbook. And fortunately, I have two of them. I have the one that I played around with a little bit last year, and I had plenty of pages left in it. And then I have this one. Now this says that it has 50 pages, but they count front and back, which it blew me away when I realized it. I was like, why would you do that? It's not 50 pages. You can't count the front and back in a sketchbook. That's not fair. That's cheating. And so when I realized that, what I did is I just took pages, because it's very easy to undo this binding here. It's super simple. What I did is I took the extra 6 pages that I needed from the old one and put it in this one. So now I have exactly 31 pages, and by the end, it should be filled with some of my best ink work and artwork in general. But yeah, that's one thing I have to stress. Like, I do not go cheap with your sketchbook, because you might just end up creating some pieces that you really, really love. And if you do that in, a subpar sketchbook, you're just going to regret it. It's just something that you can easily avoid by spending a couple extra dollars to buy a sketchbook worth drawing in. And this sketchbook is 100% worth putting artwork in. The pages are great. Let's see. I'm just checking the chat to make sure I don't miss anything. Your drawing looks printed. I admire that. You know, that is a compliment that I often got when I was in high school. Because like I said, I did mostly just inking in high school. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those sketchbooks here with me in Poland. They're all back with my sister in Ohio. But maybe one day I'll be able to show some of those if I happen to bring them to Poland. Yeah, it's definitely something that happens a lot when I show my sketchbooks to people in person that I've inked. They're always like, goodness, it looks like it was printed on there, and I take that as a compliment. Matching the print quality of a mechanical printer, that's pretty hard for a human to do. So when I am able to convince somebody that one of my drawings is printed, it feels pretty good. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to be putting in the scales of the snake. So I'll talk to you about the technique that I used last year and the little trick that I have. Right now I'm just doing the kind of the underside of the snake where it's got those like long thin scales, and so that's relatively easy. And then once I finish these few lines here, because this is the only section of the snake that has the scales like this, I will explain to you how I am doing the snake scales and how I drew them in the first place to give you an idea. Okay, just checking the chat. Okay, so I'm going to be moving on to the scales now, and I want you to just look at. I'm going to zoom in here really quick. Yeah, so that you can see these details a little bit clearer. So I have no problem writing on this. This is just a sketch anyway. So what you'll notice is that this line here is very consistent all the way across. And what you do, try to ignore the lines that are going this way. Try to ignore the lines that are going from left to right. And what I do when this is just a blank shape, when it just looks like this, I'm just doing this quickly, but when this larger shape just looks like this kind of weird U shape that's cut off, you can just draw lines in one direction, and consistency in the spacing is very important here. You just consistently space them like this. And that is one side of every single scale. The next thing that you do is you go perpendicular to those lines, and you just focus on your spacing and ignore them. Ignore the lines going in the other direction, and just focus on getting your spacing good, getting good consistency with all the scales, and you get this obvious scale-like pattern. Now, that scale pattern is not the most realistic, it's not the most ideal snake pattern. So what you do, once you have this, use it as just a guide. You only use it as a guide, and what you can do if you really want to create like some unique scales is you draw each individual scales and you use this pattern that you created as a guide. So what I'll do now is I can go in here and I can chop off a single scale like this, and then I can just start adding in the scales one by one, any shape that I want. In this case, you know, just like kind of chopping off the corners here and there a little bit to get some space in between the scales, something like this. So they're kind of like hexagon shaped scales. So instead of 4 sides it has, or octagon, so like instead of 4 sides it has 8, something like that. Or you can do more like rounded shaped scales. You usually see this in fish and in some reptiles. Some reptiles have the rounded shape, but you can do this same technique on fish as well. And you can add little points at the bottom part there, create more rounded circular scales, and you're using that pattern that you created throughout with just these simple lines to generate where you need to draw your scales, and it just makes the entire scale drawing process much easier. So that is what I am going to do. I think I'm going to keep my scales rather simplistic, just because this is more of a cartoonish and not super realistic drawing. So I'm just going to come in here, make sure I'm in frame a little bit, and I have this pattern. I can see this pattern here, and so I'm just going to start adding in the scales, just one by one. It's rather time consuming. There's no quick, easy way around this. In fact, this is the quick, easy way around it. Of course, you could always just redraw the lines, because I mean they look rather scale-ish, but they're not the most professional-looking snake scales. Yeah, it's something, you know, any child could do. So using that pattern, you know, saves you a lot of time from drawing these scales over and over again, because obviously on my initial sketch, the only thing that I did was map out where I wanted the scales, like how big I wanted them, the pattern, the way that it moves around the snake. Once you get this technique down, you can start using it in kind of manipulating the curvature of your lines to create a very unique dimension on your snake. If you can see here on this part of the snake, you can see where the skin is folding, and my scales and my guidelines for the scales, they follow that correct pattern. And you can see here that this is like the spine of the snake. You can see the bones going through this area right here, and it creates this unique shape in my lines, as opposed to just drawing the same pattern lined all the way around. And then of course here the skin bunches up a little bit as the snake is folding more and more, and the scales are bunching up, and down here the scales are spreading apart because the snake is bending this way. So you can see that as you get better with this technique, you can use it to create some a bit more dimension, a bit more realistic scale pattern. I'm giving my snake a bit of a fish-like scale pattern, using just a rounded scale. This is very, very common in fish, this particular pattern here, so no reason other than the fact that I just want to keep it rather simplistic. And I'm not even going to connect all of the scales perfectly, because as the pattern breaks up, it draws less attention to those areas of the snake. Because if I draw all the scales in completely perfect, it makes the snake darker because there's more lines there, but it still maintains, the obvious pattern, which is nice. So I'm going to come down. The scales go up, yeah, because the snake is coming around. How is the snake coming around? Oh, the snake is dripping down, coming around here. Dripping down, coming back around, and the tail is wrapping around that way, yeah. So the scales go this way. And then here the scales will go down. Here the scales will go up, and then back down and back up. What were some of the ideas that you guys had for today's prompt? I know one of you did the poisonous mushroom thing, and I've seen a snake already, and then I've seen a poisonous frog from Anna, which was really, really awesome. She's definitely going to be showing us how Inktober is done this year, just like last year. Some of the pieces she did were just ridiculously good. Thinking of the Nuggets trail he leaves behind. Oh, what did I miss there? Snake's name is Slimy. Nope, that is not his name. Oh, hello, Jeff. Welcome to the live stream. Glad you're able to make it. And Alex, good to see you as well. I bet one could use that technique in pineapples and pine cones. You're absolutely right, Paulo. Yeah, that technique, this technique is simple pattern recognition, and you can use this in flowers. You can use it in sunflowers. If you ever looked at the center of sunflowers, real quick. So the center part of a sunflower, it has this pattern. It's just like a snake scale pattern. It has rotating lines that come out like this, and then it has the same lines but mirrored, so they go like this. You'll see this pattern in flowers a lot. Yeah, just like that. That's a very simple pattern that you can use in a lot of flowers. It looks super complicated if you were to try to draw that without using the pattern, but being able to recognize those patterns is what will help you a lot in drawing. And yeah, pine cones, pineapples. I'm trying to think of what else has very obvious patterns. I mean, bricks have very obvious patterns. It's just like horizontal lines, and then every other line you skip, putting your dashes, and then you go halfway in between your dashes, and that's how you put the lines for the bricks for the other thing. I mean, bricks are super easy, but just one more example of using pattern recognition to just make your life a lot easier. Oh, gotta scroll down on the chat real quick. I'm putting poisonous words on bottles. Oh, that's a cool idea. Yeah, like a spirograph. Exactly. Yeah, let me know if you guys think up of any other patterns that you see, that you recognize, and perhaps I will know of a technique to match the pattern. Because it's not something that I use in every drawing, but as you grow as an artist and you draw similar subjects over and over again, just recognizing patterns becomes a really good, powerful tool for kind of shortening the time it takes you to create a particular image or something. Are banana snakes poisonous? I don't know. I don't think so. I looked up, I used a reference photo for this particular snake because I'm not super familiar with drawing snakes. I've probably only drawn like 2 or 3 other snakes in my life. And I don't know what kind of snake this is. I didn't care to like be particular. Snakes are just generally considered poisonous. I mean, if you go outside or like walking in the woods or something, and you come across a snake, would you ignore the possibility that the snake may possibly be poisonous and just go and try to play with it? Or would you err on the side of caution and assume the snake is poisonous and probably avoid getting bit by it? I mean, I don't know a lot about snakes, but I know some of them are poisonous, and if I see one that I wouldn't be able to handle very easily, I would probably try to avoid getting bit by it. A scorpion, that was another idea that I came across and I was thinking about. You can tell if they are poisonous many different ways, but eye shape is a bit one. Well, from my understanding, one of the best ways to determine if a snake is poisonous is the shape of its head. If it has a narrow head, then you're safe in 99% of cases. There's like a couple exceptions. And if it's poisonous on the back, right behind its eyes, its head bows out. Because if I'm not mistaken, that is where the venom is stored. Like, it kind of looks like it has puffy cheeks. And I think that is the one of the best ways, if I'm not mistaken, to determine if the snake is poisonous. But again, there are exceptions, and I'm not a snake expert, so don't use that. Don't go out and find a snake and be like, oh, it doesn't have puffy cheeks, it's not poisonous, and then play with it. Yeah, I don't recommend that. Um, I love snakes, and I've watched enough snake handling videos to not be afraid to pick up 5-foot non-poisonous snake and take a selfie with it. I did that with my sister when we were playing golf. We came across the snake and I picked it up and took a selfie with it. It was just a gardener snake, so nothing to worry there. Not sure if there's actually... I think there might be one poisonous snake in Ohio. But that was... Goodness, that was a long time ago. I keep trying to convince my wife to let me get a snake as a pet. She's not very keen on the idea, though. Not too excited about having a snake in the house. Probably won't happen. Probably won't ever have a snake as a pet. I've always wanted one, even when I was a kid. The closest I could get to a snake as a pet was like these $3 lizards from the pet store. I had like 4 or 5 of them. They all died. They didn't last very long. Which was most likely partially my fault. And also the fault of my sister. Oh, hello, Jaguar. Thank you for coming to the live stream. Conversations like this. If you are new to my live streams, then you will very soon find out just how random our conversations will become. My streams are notorious for having perhaps the most incoherent conversations on such random topics. Obviously, there's a slight connection with the snake topic, as I am drawing a snake, but don't worry, stick around. It's gonna get weird. And those are always the streams that I think I enjoy the most, because we just have all kinds of fun. Very glad to live in a country with very few poisonous wildlife. Yeah, that can be nice if you like to spend your time out in the woods. I'm losing a few of my guidelines here. I gotta try to find the right angle with the light to see exactly where I had my sketch. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And if I missed any of your questions, feel free to ask again. I'm really good at missing the questions when I get in the zone. I'm kind of in the zone right now with my drawing here. Sometimes I enjoy it too much, I forget you guys are watching. So don't forget to remind me that you're here. That's important. We have so many venomous creatures in Australia, almost scared to walk out my door. Yeah, I hear a lot about animals in Australia. For some reason, poisonous doesn't speak to me at all. Here I am with pen and paper. Yeah, I can relate. Some of the prompts last year I struggled with. I was like, man, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do. Poisonous was, not the strongest start for Inktober. In my case, it was a difficult prompt for me to kind of think up of an idea. It took like 3 days for me to just settle on doing this, and I really didn't fully commit to this idea here until just this morning, when I started sketching it. And as soon as I named Nugget's friend here, I was like, okay, I feel much better now. So you guys have any more guesses for Nugget's best friend's snake's name? It's very simple. It's very simple. It's a very simple name. I'll give you one clue. It is not a person's name. Like, Nugget isn't a person's name. So his best friend isn't going to have a person name either, like Bob or Jacob or whatever. Yeah, so it's not a person's name. I would hate to be a person named what I named the snake. But yes, that's your one clue. I like the idea of poisonous flowers. That was actually one of my first ideas. I was like, what's that poisonous flower? Nightshade. It's always like in movies and stuff. I thought about doing that, like a nightshade flower. I don't even know what they look like, but it was one of the ideas that like popped into my head right away. Is my wife going to join me on Inktober? She might stop by in live stream and say hello to everybody. I know you guys love her, for good reason. But I'm going to be doing my live streams at different times to try to accommodate as many people around the world as possible. So I'll do some in my morning, which is going to be really late in the United States, or it's going to be like in the afternoon for Australia, Japan, and anything that way from me. And then I'll do some in my evening where my wife will be home. Of course, I'm doing these live streams every day, so I'm also doing this on the weekend. I'm doing this on the weekend. 31 days straight of live streaming. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. So my wife will be home sometimes when I'm streaming, and of course, in those moments, I'll ask her to jump on the stream and say hello to everybody. Oh, hello, Leontine. Very excited for the Inktober streams. I am too. Yes, the weird conversations. See, Leontine knows what happens during the live streams. It looks like I got a couple guesses here for the name. So Crawler, that's an interesting name for a snake. It's not Crawler, it's not Slimy, it's not Slippery. Yes, shiny geckos are definitely cool. Can I ask a question? Absolutely, you can always ask a question. How to get idea to draw pose on characters? Look at pictures of people. I don't know what else to say. One of my, let me start drawing here a little bit. I think I'm caught up. Slither, good name for a snake, not the name of this snake. Anyways, I'm gonna do some drawing here. What was the question? I gotta go back to the question. Hold on a second. How do you get ideas for poses for your characters? Scaly, Slither, nope, not the name. Close. Well, not really close, but you're just wrong. Anyways, so how to get ideas for character poses. This is something that I often do. I love drawing like anime characters and stuff. I don't do it too much anymore, but I used to do it pretty much. That's all I inked. That's all I drew in high school. I love doing it. Still a big fan. What I like to do is just look at pictures of people. It's actually a normal routine for me. Even though I have a ton of projects that I'm constantly going through and planning and working out and tutorials for Patreon, that ideas that I need to come up with. My almost constant daily routine is to go look at pictures. I look at photographs, I look at other people's drawings, I look at paintings, I look at digital art. I just go through, I like to go to DeviantArt and just click browse and just browse. I'll just click through for like, you know, I'll drink my morning tea and my bowl of oatmeal or whatever, and I'll just click through pictures and I'll be like, I really like that. Maybe it's a photograph, maybe it's a digital piece, it doesn't matter. I like to do that because it inspires me to see what other people are making, what other people are capturing with their camera, what other people are painting or drawing, and it inspires me. And sometimes I'll come across like a pose or something that I'm like, you know, I really like that pose, and I'll just save it. I actually have a folder on my computer that is nothing but poses that I have collected over years, and I just save them. And it's like I probably haven't drawn 99% of the poses that I've saved, but they're there for inspiration, or if I ever get around to actually drawing one. So that's kind of my suggestion that you do if you are looking to do some character poses and kind of struggling with ideas. Just look at what other people are doing. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no copyright. There's no copyright on human poses. So I got Buddy and Scaly for the snake name. Bubba, that's a good one. Nope, that's not the name. That's not the name. Good guesses though, good guesses. I like the names, but once I tell you the name, as soon as I tell you the name, everybody's gonna be like, that is the name. I see it now. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Venom? Fang? Scales? No. See, you guys are going really, really obvious with the names. You're going almost literal with the names. I'll give you another clue. The first clue was that it is not the name of a person. So it's not going to be like Bob or Jake or whatever. And wait, what was the other name? I forget. It's not obvious. That's the second clue. It's not obvious. So the fact that he is a snake, so slither, scales, I don't know. Yeah, the fact that he is a snake does not define his name. Just like Nugget, Nugget is a slug. What does Nugget have to do with slugs? Absolutely nothing. But you cannot look at Nugget and not think of any other snake or any other name. Hisser, Happy, Sir Hiss, Long One, Blooper, Sneaky, Cobra. I love the guesses. I love the guesses. I didn't anticipate how much fun it was going to be keeping the snake name from all of you and reading off your guesses. They're fantastic. I love the creativity you guys have. I love the names. But the name that I gave him, see, just like last year when I created Nugget, we kind of talked about it as a family because he didn't have a name, and we had to name him together. And fortunately, when I said Nugget, everybody was like, "Yes, that's the name. That suits him. That's perfect. It's cute, adorable. Exactly what Slug, our favorite slug, is. Cute and adorable." Chicken. Oh, that's a good one. Chicken and Nugget. Oh goodness, Robin, that's a good one. That's probably the best one that I've got. Oh, Honest said it first. Oh wait, no. Who said it first? Sneaks. Sneaks said it first. Chicken. That's a good one. Oh my goodness. Chicken and Nugget. That is good. That's gonna be a hard one to beat. That's gonna be a hard one to beat. It's not Chicken and Nugget. Oh, that's a good one though. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. I love it. I'm gonna have to make another best friend of Nugget and call him Chicken. Yeah, the snake's name. Oh, that's so good. I can't get over it. Yeah, the snake's name's not Chicken. That is, yeah, it's a good one. That is a good one for sure. Excellent name. I almost wish that I came up with that. I might have, I might have even went with that if I didn't come up with the name that I came up with. Yeah, Leontine knows that I'm vegan, so hard to name it after a food I wouldn't eat. What is the snake's color? That is a good question. So if you don't know, Nugget's color is blue, although you should know that because of the thumbnail. Nugget is blue. Why is he blue? Because his best friend. Okay, so I kind of created a little bit of a backstory. With Nugget and his best friend. Almost said his name. And that is, they are opposites. They're very opposite from one another. So if Nugget is blue, who can tell me what color the snake is? Okay, this is kind of an art quiz. Tofu and Nugget, that's a good one. That's a good name too. It's not Tofu though. Not Tofu. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. I think you guys get the gist of what's going on with this technique. I love the names. You guys are awesome. Yes, so I want to see if anybody can figure out that riddle there with what color. All right, somebody already got it. Kimberly got it. The color is orange. The color is orange. And can anybody tell me, yeah, a couple people got it now. Why is the snake orange? I need to grab my pencil really quick. I can't quite see these lines, and I just want to make sure that I have them. Some of these lines are just too faint for me to see. So I'm just going to sketch them in really quick. Let's see. Blue and orange are complementary. Yep, that's exactly right. That is why the snake is orange. The specific color that Nugget is the opposite of orange. Yeah. Blue and orange are complements. Good job, everyone. Snake's name is Pumpkin. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, his name is Sunshine. Yes, it is a boy. Or a male. I guess. Yeah. Without getting too specific. Because I think technically boy refers to a human. So, like I was saying, like the snake and Nugget, they're kind of opposites in my mind. And throughout this month, I'm going to be trying to develop a bit more story behind Nugget, and I need to create a few extra characters in his world, because Nugget has been a topic of discussion in a lot of my live streams, not just Inktober live streams, but just the live streams that I host each week, drawing journals and tutorials and all of that. Nugget comes up a lot in the streams, and one of the ways that he's come up in the stream is like writing a book, doing like a children's book with Nugget. And next year, I kind of want to start maybe doing that, like fleshing out a story a little bit and then start illustrating it. I think it'd be so much fun. I love the character Nugget, and so if you don't know Nugget's personality, is that he's a little like apathetic. Like he just kind of he usually has like the flat eyes, where he usually has eyes that look like this. This is Nugget's normal look. This is how Nugget normally looks. That's his normal eyes. Yeah, like that. So, kind of apathetic, not really amused. He's smiling. He's not quite bipolar, but undiagnosed. He's either like super happy, or he's just completely like, I don't care. Like that is his personality. The snake, however, is going to have kind of the opposite personality. He's just going to be happy, like just super positive. Like that's the positive. That's the character dynamic there with the snake. I think somebody asked for another hint. Okay. I have to check one thing. Okay. The next hint, oh wait, now I can't use this paper. Hold on, I gotta cross it out. The next hint with the name is that it has the same exact number of letters. So Nugget's name has 6 letters. The snake's name has 6 letters. That's the next hint. I'll give you another hint in a few minutes. Banana. It's a good toffee, fidget, flower. Geez, you guys know a lot of 6-letter words. I would have been struggling with that hint. Fluffy, smiley, Tegan. What are the other tips? So tip number one is that it's not a person's name. Tip number 2 is that it's not obvious because he's a snake, because a lot of the names were like snake related, like Scales and Slither and things like that. Yeah, that's the second hint. And then the third hint is that it has 6 letters. I had to write it on my piece of paper to double check because I had to come up with another hint. I'll give you after I finish this section of Scales. Am I still in camera? After I finish this section of Scales here, I'll give you the 4th and final hint. The 4th and final hint. Or maybe I'll give you a 4th hint and then I'll consider a 5th hint as I do some finishing touches of my inking here. Is it food? So you're asking for hints. How did you choose Nugget for a bipolar slug? Well, when we drew up Nugget, I think he came around a couple times before we decided he was the family pet, and I decided like he needs a name, and so we basically just had a bunch of people trying to come up with a good name for Nugget, and gosh, there was a whole bunch. There was a whole bunch of names. I can't remember any of them, but we discussed it for I think over 2 streams. I think more than 2 streams, and in the middle of trying to come up with the name, I was like, I got it. I was like, as soon as I thought it, I knew it was the name. I was like, okay, I know the name. I know the name. And I like paused everything and I was like, Nugget. That's the perfect name. And everybody in the chat was like, yes, that is definitely the perfect name. And now it's Nugget. Everybody's favorite slug Nugget. And it's Nugget the Slug. That's how his name came about. And when I was sketching this idea, I was kind of simultaneously thinking, I was like, oh, we have another character to name. And I don't know how it happened. It just kind of popped into my head, and I was like, well, I guess we won't have to name the snake because I just thought of the perfect name, and I can't accept anything better. I can't accept anything other than what I had thought in that moment, and I was like, that's going to be his name. Sorry to cut you all out of naming the snake, but as soon as I thought it, I was like, it just works. Just works. So let me give you another hint. I'm not quite done with the scales here. Am I gonna draw and paint in this live stream the snake? I am finishing the drawing. I am not going to be coloring this. I won't be coloring this. I'm just doing it clean line art. Yes, like Wendy says there. Stretch, squash, banana, bender, good twisty, snappy, cookie. That's good. That's good. Wrapper. Okay, so the next hint for his name is that it starts with the same letter as nugget. So it starts with N. That's the next. So it's a 6-letter word, starts with N. So basically you have this. Let me get a thicker pen here. Yeah. So you have that. 6 letters, starts with N. Napper, newbie, nectar, nipper. Napper. You guys are great. You guys are great. This is fun. I need to make a new character every day and just sit here and watch you guys guess the name. Because this is just too much fun. Too much fun. Now, for real, after I finish the scales here and I go into the final final stages, I'll give you guys one last hint. One last hint. Because I'll almost be completely done with the drawing here, and then obviously I'll be done with the stream as well. Nachos. I like nachos. That's a good one. I like nachos. I really like chicken though. That's super fun. That's super fun. Chicken and nugget. Yeah, that's a good one. A character a day via Inktober prompts. Great book content. Yeah, I agree. Nibbit. Yeah, that's a good one. Nespit. Nature. Nosy. That's a fun one too. Yeah. You guys are just, you're gonna go to like dictionary and just look at all the words that start with N and just start listing them off. Google words that start with N that have 6 letters. Wait, who said it? Who said it? Oh, I think somebody got it. Where's it at? Where's it at? Did I miss it? Oh, wait. Who said it first? Who said it first? I missed it. Somebody got it. Somebody got it. I gotta check to see who got it first. Who said it? Who said it? Okay. Oh, here's the... Yep. Lily, you got it. That's it. That's the name. You got it. Lily got it. The name is Noodle. His name is Noodle. Of course it's Noodle. He's a snake. Come on. His name is Noodle. Noodle and Nugget. Yep. And look at that. I finished the scales just in time. When I was so like I said, when I was sketching this, and I was thinking, oh, we got to come up with a name. Noodle. It like popped into my head almost instantly, and I almost just started laughing to myself, and I immediately wrote it down because I was like, I cannot forget that. I cannot forget that. And so that's his name. His name is Noodle. That's great. That's great. I gotta do some details here on this flower. I forgot. Good guesses, guys. That was great. What does Lily win? Actually, Lily, do you have any of my courses? And if not, which one do you want? I'll send it to you. So since you guessed the name correctly before I revealed it, I'll send you a course. My colored pencil course, pastel course, my portrait course, whichever one you want. You just let me know. All right, now that I have that inking, that preliminary inking done, because that is just the preliminary inking, still got some work to do. I was not intending to give a prize away today, but yeah. You let me know which course you want, and I'll email it to you. Now I gotta think up a game for tomorrow. All right, Sleepwalker. Well, I'm glad you're inspired. Yes, today's live stream is going to be winding down, pun intended. The portrait course, absolutely. Lily, you know my email address, correct? If send me an email right now so you don't forget, and then right after I jump off the stream here, I'll respond. I'll send you the portrait course. Oh. Good question. So what I'm doing, I'm using a kneaded eraser. I highly recommend that you use a kneaded eraser. I have. Okay, so here is a rubber eraser that you rub like that, and this is the kneaded eraser, the ones that are moldable and all of that. When you erase your graphite lines that lie beneath and around your inked work, don't use one of these. I cannot tell you how many times an eraser like this has ruined a perfectly inked drawing. The problem is that when you are sliding the rubber eraser across the paper, if there is even a single speck of ink that hasn't completely dried, you will smear that across your beautiful white paper and it will never be fixable. So what you do is you take a kneaded eraser instead, kind of shape it into a cylinder shape, and you roll it on your paper. Because that way, even if you hit a puddle of ink, all it's going to do is lift it up straight off the paper rather than smear it across the paper. So this is the way that I erase my graphite. And this is the way that I recommend you do it too. After you do this, after you erase your graphite this way, you can then safely, if you find some lines, you can tap it, but you can start to erase by rubbing the kneaded eraser across the paper. But doing it this way first will protect your drawing from smearing the ink in the beginning. What time is my live stream tomorrow? So if you go over to my channel, you'll notice that tomorrow's live stream is already scheduled, and you'll be able to see, regardless of what time zone you are in, you'll be able to see what time it starts for you. And yes, if you are in England, it should be 2 p.m. your time. Thank you, Wendy. Always so helpful in the live streams. I appreciate that. Yeah, I got a little extra graphite over here. All right. So now what I'm going to do is some final delicate inking. And I'm gonna do that. I think let's see, how thin is this? That's a bit too thin, I think. I'm gonna go with the 0.3. 0.3 is a good one. I think I prefer a 0.2, but I don't have a 0.2, so I'm gonna use this. And I'm just going to develop the lines on Noodle here a little bit, and you'll see what I mean by that. So he's lifted off the tree, and so I'm going to create somewhat of an illusion of a shadow by just adding a little bit of weight right here to bring him off the tree a bit. Kind of a little shadow right there. And I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom part down here. Just to add a little bit of weight to the line. That just helps him pop off the page a bit more. And I'm going to do a little bit over here as well. This is my favorite part of inking, is adding these little touches, these little bits of softening, like softening the edges, softening the corners. Love doing this. I'm gonna smooth out this line here a bit. I think that will help make that look cleaner. Soften that corner where the edges go. I'm gonna do the same thing right here in the fold, just a tiny bit. Something like that. And it's a subtle change. It's a very subtle change, but it makes all the difference. Makes all the difference. So I noticed some of you are talking about the times of my streams. Like I briefly mentioned in the beginning that I'm going to be altering the time. So make sure you you have the notifications on. Because I'm going to be altering the times for the streams to help accommodate everybody around the world. So I'll be doing some in my morning, some in my evening, and it will just vary. And I'll try to schedule those out as quickly as possible so you know as soon as possible. But the best way is to make sure you turn on notifications so that you are notified when I go live and things like that. This is the final stages of my inking process. So create these little softened edges here. And I think I might thicken up a bit of the tree here a little bit. Not as thick as the snake, not as thick as Noodle, but just to balance it a bit more on the page. because for noodle I used the 0.5, so not as thick as the 0.3. There we go. Yeah, you can see how it just adds that subtle depth, makes the snake look a bit more three-dimensional. Let's see, I want to make sure I don't miss any questions before I sign off here. Yes, the kneaded erasers are definitely pure gold. They're fantastic. Alright, so let me zoom out just a tad. There you go. So there is the final drawing of Noodle and Nugget. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I really needed it, and you guys made it a lot of fun. So thank you a ton for that. I hope you guys had fun. If you did, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. And share my future streams as well, so we can grow the family and bring more people here to inspire us and just have a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing these streams, and you guys you guys are awesome. Seriously, I can't express it enough. I'm super grateful that you guys take the time out of your day to come by and hang out with me and you know, make me laugh, put a smile on my face. It really means a lot to me. So I will see you all tomorrow, and don't forget to join the Unmask Art family. I have the links for that in the description, along with all of the supplies that I use, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Peace.